I'm Eric Newton, and this is The Together Show. We all know relationships take work, but what is that work, and how do we do it? As a former divorce lawyer, I've watched thousands of couples break up firsthand. Having seen the worst in relationships, I decided to try to help couples stay together. So on this show, we talk to real couples and find out what love really looks like.
I'm at work. I'm walking between meetings. I get a call on my cell phone. It's Kristen. And I'm thinking she's going to tell me that she found a divorce attorney, so you better lawyer up. She says, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, we got the call."
Welcome to the show, everybody. Thanks for listening. We're launching a radio show based on our podcast, and so we're looking for questions from listeners about relationships. If you have any questions or if you'd like some advice about your relationship, give us a call and leave us a message at 415-483-5112. We'll get right back to you, and we'd love to include you in the show. Now on to the show. Today's episode is part 2 of an interview with Kristen and Kourosh about the infidelities that almost took their marriage under. The story gets really good in this episode, and we'll learn how these two saved their marriage by doing the one thing that everybody says never to do. So with that, let's go to our interview with Kristen and Kourosh. I don't know about most, but in many relationships where there's been an infidelity, if it's survivable, the couple goes to therapy together and they work through it. And it usually takes an immense amount of work for the individuals in the relationship to both realize that they each had a role in causing the infidelity, which is something that usually the quote unquote victim doesn't want to face. And maybe the quote unquote perpetrator doesn't want to face that either because they like that dynamic of a perpetrator and a victim. Whatever the psychological component and makeup of the dynamic, it takes a while to get to that point. In your situation, Kourosh just wasn't that torn up about it. He was dealing with other stuff. He was upset, sure, but he wasn't going to go to therapy because the financial world was falling down around his ears. And so you, Kristen, had to go to therapy on your own to work through the issues.
Before she starts answering your question, can I just say that is a really insightful thing that you said that I had not actually thought about until you just said it after all these years. That the quote-unquote victim had a role to play in it, and they would go into therapy to fix that.
Or see it.
Now I see that I was remiss in not going and facing up to that. Because I felt like, okay, I'm not angry, so I don't need to go. All's forgiven. But the inattention, my mind being elsewhere, am I putting the priority on money? That was not addressed. Wow.
Did you ever address it? Later.
Part 2 we did, yes.
Okay, we'll get to that in part 2.
Also, in a way, though, you, as you said before, you kind of accepted your role in what led up to what happened because you said that you had been inattentive. We both had, grown apart. You were working so much. I was quitting my job and starting something totally new, and we were growing apart. And you even said, I had become inattentive, or we both had become inattentive to our relationship, and you kind of immediately accepted that your role in it rather than having to go to years of therapy to realize it.
Yeah.
That sounds like that's one part of accepting your role in it, and that there was another part that you didn't face up until later.
Yeah.
Well, so back to Kristen's therapy, what did you see in that process?
Well, I learned a lot of sort of needs that I have that I didn't really address before. Like the need to be sort of seen, as therapists are really good at saying. Kourosh is very reserved and says as few words as necessary.
I don't like pleats.
any high horse pleated khakis.
Not anymore.
No, we
just
got
be
the
clear
flat
about
front
that.
going on really quickly. But there was this sort of need to be paid attention to that I had, and the affair sort of all of a sudden satisfied that, and so it helped me talk about that with Kourosh. Like, I kind of like it when you say I look nice, or I like it when we talk, or when I talk you respond, whether it's just like saying yeah or uh-huh or whatever, like, because we would often have conversations where he was very silent. Well, it was like me talking was the conversation, and what I kind of didn't realize was that, like, even though he was listening, he didn't really feel the need. It just wasn't in him to feel the need to like make a noise or like say anything. He's just like listening. He's like, you're saying something, I'm listening. Why do I need? But I was like, well, I kind of need an acknowledgement that you're actually listening and that you know what I'm saying. So just like little things like that it made me realize that I had sort of made that, I had like just accepted that, like, okay, maybe I just won't get certain needs fulfilled in my relationship, and it's just going to have to be the way it is. Like, sometimes you just have to live with things the way they are. But my therapist sort of convinced me, like, well, no, you don't. You can like ask for what you want. Like, you don't have to go outside of the marriage. You don't have to go elsewhere. Maybe you can get it from your marriage. So I started asking Kourosh, like, you know, do you think you could like respond sometimes when we're having conversations, or, you know, just stuff that would just make me feel more seen and like heard in the relationship. And it made a big difference.
Yeah. I mean, that's a fundamental thing that people need in relationships, is to know that they're in a relationship, that there's a dynamic, as opposed to that they're alone.
Yeah.
that they're being experienced and appreciated and loved and all those things. And as a quick aside, it's interesting to see how Kourosh looks at you when you're talking, because right now, Kourosh, you're being very silent. You're listening, but you're gazing at her. I mean, you're just, when you're talking, you're looking at me, so you can't see him, but
Yeah.
he's just gazing at you. You know, I mean, he really is soaking you up. And I wonder if you were just unable to see that.
I think
then.
that's totally true, actually. And because I like needed some kind of more like either a sound or something like to reinforce it for me. So because the thing is, I don't think he was ever like ignoring me or not taking me seriously or not finding what I was saying important. In his mind, it was all cool to him. He was like, yeah, I'm listening and she's saying things and we're having a relationship or whatever. But it was on my side that it was like, I was like, he's not listening, or like I was feeling this frustration, but not telling him. Yeah. Like, he doesn't hear what I'm saying, or, you know, he's not finding it important or acknowledging me or whatever. Which
is also fundamental to a relationship. Okay, now then there's a second layer that I'm really interested in, which is, you said that in the early stages of the relationship that you kept having these trust issues come up, where you would find that he was flirting with a woman and it kept happening and happening. And you were saying that that's something that's been with you for a long time, that it wasn't just Kourosh, but that's been an issue ongoingly. How did that tie in to the infidelity?
That's a good question. I'm not sure if you mean how my lack of trust tied into my having a relationship, a relationship outside of the marriage?
It seems that it's too ironic to not be relevant. It seems like it's just too much of an obvious clue. Like you were saying, you've always had these trust issues over and over, and then you definitely had them with Kourosh, and you had evidence, but though actually you were the one who cheated. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Right?
Maybe, yeah. Do you have time to talk after this and we can kind of work that out? Because I have no idea. I need to figure that out. I mean, that is an excellent question. And I'm actually kind of shocked that I haven't explored that with my therapist now that you say it. Yeah, I mean, I have no idea, but maybe it is connected. I wish I had a good answer for you, but
Cool.
it's something that needs to be explored, perhaps.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
definitely.
Well, it's fascinating. I'll say that, and it's an obvious connection. And yeah, well, maybe we can take some time to talk about it. Maybe we can even record it.
Yeah.
But so we don't have enough time on on this segment. So let me ask the next question, which is: so you didn't deal with that, but you did let it go, right? It sounds like you let go of the pain that you had created for yourself by having an infidelity enough to stay in a relationship with Kourosh.
Yeah. Yeah, you mean like guilt and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, yeah, with the help of my therapist, and Kourosh's forgiveness, I mean, he really was amazing in giving me sort of like, I almost feel like he's like, it's a unique situation because he really did not impose on me any kind of like, where are you going? Or like, I don't trust you anymore. He never even really said, I don't trust you anymore. Like, it was kind of amazing. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I think that he saw how badly I really did feel about it. And
you were very contrite.
He wasn't like suspicious of me or, there wasn't any kind of like.
Was there a part of you that wanted him to be?
Yeah,
like along the
a little
lines
bit.
Of wanting to be seen? Yeah.
Yes. Like, why aren't you more mad about this? Like,
but I mean, at the same time, I actually had sympathy for you because so I'm putting myself completely outside of this relationship. You went to Paris, beautiful city, very romantic, lovely place for love. Young tennis stud pays you attention.
Was he?
And
yeah, I guess.
And you had some fun. And, again, it's incredibly difficult, but putting myself outside of the relationship and thinking about it as if it was a friend of mine who's disclosing this, I would actually have sympathy for that guy. I would say, oh, yeah, you're not getting this out of your relationship and life is short and you're in Paris and you had fun, but you didn't fall in love with a guy and you went back. You could have stayed in Paris and, but it was not, it was apparent. It was none of that. It was just a fling. So I was rationally thinking that this is not a threat to me. This is not a threat to my marriage. This is something that we can work through. But at the same time, something apocalyptic was happening, and that part was what was really stressing me out. And I this is the part where you and I have strife in this, is that I couldn't make you see that part was kind of apocalyptic.
Yeah.
And that was a big point of strife.
And that kind of came up in phase 2 therapy.
Well, okay. So phase 2, that's the unspoken, well, not really an elephant in the room, but the thing that we obviously are not talking about. So, okay, what happened next? At some point, so you recovered in some way, and then at some point, Kourosh, you had an infidelity?
Well, we should probably talk about what happened
in between,
because we continued to try to have a child, and it wasn't happening, and I was getting older, so we started looking into adoption.
And you were adopted.
I was adopted, yeah. Yeah, and I had always wanted to adopt and maybe also have a biological child, but the biological part was becoming difficult. I was getting like in my early 40s. And so we went through all of the paperwork and everything to adopt through the foster system. And we moved like 3 or 4 times. It was just taking forever because the paperwork, we'd have to refill out forms every time we moved. And it was just taking a really long time. And then finally, actually,
stop.
Yeah. Okay, you go.
Okay,
you go.
So 2010, 2011, we were going through the adoption process of the foster care system. At about this time, I got a job, which was, it was a really nice job. And I got a chance to go to New York quite often. Feeling good about myself, finding myself in New York, and being, frankly, kind of horny.
And you guys still hadn't. I mean, sex was still clinical for you at this stage, even though you had worked through some.
Yeah, there was,
And probably way too infrequent for.
Yeah.
and there
For
was a
his
lot of
taste.
pressure. And there was a lot of pressure too, because you always felt like, okay, this is the time that she's going to get pregnant, and obviously it would never happen. But anyway, went to New York, looked up an old contact, and I started an affair. It wasn't serious. It wasn't definitely no feelings of love or anything like that. It was sexual. It was just seeking fun.
And when you looked her up, did you know what you were doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And once again, electronically, she discovered evidence of the affair, and she confronted me, and it was horrific. It was actually the 4th of July weekend. And
How long had it been going on?
not very long, less than a year, like 10 months or so. Not even that, like 8 months or so. Anyway,
Your parents were visiting.
my parents were visiting, thank you.
Which
Yes,
made
which
it,
made it even
like-
worse. Because my parents, we tried to keep it, I tried to keep it hidden from my parents that she had discovered this. She was
Well,
incredibly angry. She was
Did your parents know
enraged.
about her affair?
No. Yeah.
in that case, they
I'm
probably would have
hoping-
been like, "Serves you right." No.
And I'm still counting on the fact that they'd have no idea what a podcast is.
Hi, Mom. Hi, Dad.
Anyway, so it was a hellacious weekend, and I felt like, okay, this is it. This is the end of our marriage, and this is something that I don't think we can recover from. Even though I was trying to say that there's nothing emotional about this. Basically it was my turn, and there's no reason for you to be worried about my emotional attachment. She was having none of it, and I felt that this was the end, and I was beginning to accept that come Monday she would be talking to a divorce attorney, and I'd have to look up one too.
Perhaps I would have been calling you.
Maybe, did we know each other when that was happening? Yeah. I guess
No, maybe we would have met.
Maybe that's how we would have met.
Or maybe we did. I don't know.
So, were you surprised at her reaction?
No, not at all.
So you
no,
knew-
I knew she was going to be enraged.
And that's an interesting way to put it too. You're like, I know she's going to be enraged. So does that mean that when you were having the affair, you assumed she would eventually figure it out?
I just thought the affair would just end. Like, it was very transactional. It's like,
yeah.
that's it. I'm not going to talk to you again. And then a couple months later, I'd find myself in New York and go, okay, this is really the last time.
Yeah.
That's not how it worked out. And over the course of my relationship, I knew that any threat that she felt, any jealousy that she felt, would be explosive. It would be, Vikings going berserk.
Yeah.
That kind of bad. So I
She's frowning.
I just the
It's a great. It's
analogy
really
is bizarre.
a very funny analogy. Little tiny Kristen, with an axe.
trust me, trust me.
In her denim.
So
dress.
she did. So she did react the way that I thought she would, deservedly. That following Monday, though, this was over a weekend. That following Monday, I'm at work. I'm walking between meetings. It's 10 a.m. I was late, so it was 10:03 a.m. to my meeting. That's why I know the time. I get a call on my cell phone. It's Kristen, and I'm thinking she's going to tell me that she found a divorce attorney, so you better lawyer up. She says, "Are you sitting down?" I said, "Why?" She said, "Well, we got the call." "What call?" "There is a girl waiting for us at General Hospital, and they need an answer by 3 p.m. And we have to call them back and let them know
Oh my God.
if we're going to take this child."
told you I would cry.
Yeah. So, I rushed home, not knowing what the hell we're going to do, because obviously we had this unbelievable crisis in our marriage, something that I didn't think we were going to survive. But at the same time, this is something that we wanted for almost 5 years, but it felt like forever. And we had an emergency meeting. We asked for an emergency session with Kristen's therapist because we really had no idea what the hell
Before
to do.
3 p.m.
Yeah. No, they were like, we got to find it. There's a girl here. She's going to be discharged. We need to place this child.
She was new. She had been
She was
born.
2 days old.
She was
4 days old.
4 days
I
old.
always get that wrong.
And they really wanted her in a home. Like, they didn't want her to be in the hospital and
Yeah.
the little incubator thing anymore. They wanted her in a home.
So we had a emergency. We called up your therapist.
I actually had an appointment scheduled for that day. So I said, can I please bring Kourosh to the appointment? And she said yes.
We went to the session. The whole thing was, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I think the therapist, Adriana, was like, yeah, I don't know what the hell you guys are going to do. This is pretty fucked up. And then right around halfway into the session, this is 2:30 in the afternoon, 1:30 in the afternoon, a nurse or a social worker from the hospital called us during the session. We answered it. She said, what's it going to be? And I said, well, we have until 3. She said, well, we really got to know. And he said something to the effect of, we haven't decided yet. She said something to the effect of, whatever you guys are going through, just remember that there's a 4-day-old girl who needs a home.
She basically said, you can give this child safe haven for whatever amount of time it turns out to be. And she wasn't really pushing us. She was just saying that what needed to be said to kind of get us to stop freaking out.
And in an instant, it's amazing. It really was an instant when I realized, okay, this is what I got to do with my life. We got to get this girl. I got to repair this relationship and this marriage. And we got to work through a ton of shit. And we got to address all the things that we haven't addressed. And it was like a big sense of relief, but at the same time, it was like I don't know, that day started with acceptance of me, like, okay, this is the end of the relationship. We got to get a divorce. Our assets are liquid, so we can split up the money. No problem. We're done. And then we get a call that changes your life. So we picked her up. She was lovely. The nurse, as we were walking in, the nurse said, she's really cute. And I think all children look like lizards, but she really was cute.
She is.
Yeah.
She had a lot of hair.
Yeah. And we decided, even though we didn't have a right to name her, she was going to be a foster child until we adopted her. So her name legally would be whatever the birth mother had given her. We decided on the ride over that we would name her Frida, for Frida Kahlo. And that afternoon we took her home, and that's when phase 2 started.
Yeah. Wow. Well, wow.
Now, a lot of people say children put stress on a marriage. That's when marriages start to fall apart. And
the other thing they say is never use a child to save a marriage.
Right.
Yeah.
Never get pregnant to save a marriage, because that never works.
Most of our friends were like, you're not going to do this, right? Like, my best friend was like, timing is not good. Like, are you you're not going to do this, are you? And I was like, we might. Like, I just couldn't say, I just couldn't think of saying no.
Yeah.
Despite that, I have to say that when we left Adriana's office that day, I still didn't know the answer in my own mind. But I remember walking down that sidewalk and you said, I want to do it. And I was like, really? And you seemed so certain that I was like, okay, I'm with you. Like, I can do it too.
I wonder, maybe I'm wondering, okay, let me step back and explore this philosophical question that I'm always encountering in my own life, which is this idea that things only matter because we say they do. To us as individual humans, there's no objective meaning-making authority out there. Maybe there's God. Maybe God does that if you're somebody who believes in God, or if God exists in that particular kind of way. But in terms of our actual experience, we make up the meaning. And an infidelity to one person is a horrible thing, and to another person it's a nothing. And you guys are a case in point of that exact example, which is kind of the classic example. And for you, his infidelity meant something. Before Frida came into the picture, his infidelity meant something terminal. What did it mean?
It actually, I did not really think it was something terminal because of how contrite he was being. If he had been like at all like cavalier about it, or like acted like it was not as huge a deal as I felt it was, it might have been terminal. But he was being so willing to like work with me and meet me where I was so upset and hurt that I did hold out a tiny bit of hope for our marriage.
So whereas he thought you were going to divorce lawyer, you were actually just trying to go to the therapist.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, yeah, because I guess it was soon after Frida came into our home. I was like, your next job on the list is to find us a therapist, stat. And I was like, it's your job to do it. We have this baby. I wanted him to be responsible for doing it. I felt like it was his job. And he found one. We
went for a year.
Yeah. We were on the same page about our sort of lack of, I don't know, enthusiasm for her, to put it diplomatically. But
well, hold on, because that's also fascinating. I want to know the lack of enthusiasm, and then also what phase 2 consisted of, and how you recovered. But the second part of my question was, if we create all the meaning, and in one moment you had all this meaning about that was making you furious. I don't know what words you would put to that meaning, but you had a reality about the world that was making you very angry at him, justifiably so, but nonetheless self-created meaning, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the possibility of Frida arrived, and it was gone. Like, that fire was gone instantly. You may have still had some of the concerns, but the fire was immediately gone. And that is what fascinates me, is the shift. There was one meaning 1 second and a different meaning the next second.
Yeah, it wasn't like the anger was gone completely, but the meaning, meaning being a really good word that you're using, what was meaningful shifted a lot, because there was a 4-day-old infant involved all of a sudden, and could we give her a home, and can we be a family going forward, and things much bigger than just the two of us together started to come to light and become possibilities. And it was like, well, if all this is possible, why throw it away because of this thing that happened? We have a long history behind us. We have been together a very long time. We've been through so much already. Why can't we kind of keep pushing forward for the sake of these bigger things?
Yeah. Okay. So then phase 2, what did you guys see?
I think marriage therapy was somewhat helpful. We talked about a lot of things that had happened in the past. I think for the first time, we really explored what was going on in our heads with the first affair, where I put on the table how, what was going on in my head, and I think you really understood. But in the end, I didn't feel like we were making that much progress with the therapy, with the sessions. Go on. You gonna say something?
I think I understand. Like I remember, Kourosh basically wanted a prescription and like, okay, how can we fix this? And like, let's go fix it. Yeah. And the therapist refused to like work with him on that. She was just like, no, we're in therapy and we just like, it unfolds the way it unfolds. And he was just like,
and I was like, okay, well, this is going to take 5 years, and
he just saw endless dollar signs.
Yeah.
Like,
just tell me what the hell to do.
Yeah. He just wanted to know what to do. But at the same time, things came up that Kourosh had been harboring that I had no idea he was still harboring, like stuff about the expensive condo we had, and like things that I had said and things that he thought that I felt, and that I had no idea he was still thinking about this stuff. So that all really came to a head, and I think the air was cleared a lot during those sessions, yeah, even though you really didn't like her. Right? I mean, I did get something out of it. And frankly, I think raising Frida was much more therapeutic than therapy. And it was fun. I mean, we got to know each other again. We reconnected again. We talked about a lot of things that, where does our life go from here? Because we had a child. So that was very useful. And then something happened recently, about a year ago, when I got fired from my job because I just was not getting along with my boss. That made me re-examine what was going on in my own head. About why do some people have very strong reactions about me? Why do I offend people? So I started attending a men's group where if you know what men's groups are, they're basically a bunch of guys getting together with a facilitator who usually has a background in therapy or psychiatry or whatever, and we just talk. And I actually have found this group to be much, much more helpful to me being a more supportive partner than the other therapy, because the guys are ruthless in telling me about the words that I use and how they sometimes sting, and how sometimes when I perceive my, little jabs, like playful jabs, as like playful jabs, they see it as like, geez, dude, back up. And one of the guys actually said something that has really stuck with me, and it's something that I try to live by with every day. He said, before you speak or you do anything, put it through a filter of kindness.
It's lovely.
Yeah. Which was worth the price of, all this therapy that I've had before. So I think that has also helped me be more attentive to her, to Kristen, to be, to work towards improving the relationship of the marriage, and just paying attention to, I don't know how else to say this. That the most efficient way of saying it, of not being a dick, yeah, when I don't need to be.
Yeah. Wow, so many questions. We're never going to get through them all. All right, let me ask you about the distinction between therapy and fixing. You said something earlier that the raising Frida was more therapeutic than therapy. And I wondered when you said that if another way of saying what you were intending was raising Frida made me feel better about our marriage than therapy did.
Yeah.
Is that accurate,
That's-
or am I
that's
missing
part
the
of it.
flavor of it?
That's certainly one part of it.
What is therapy? Like, what's the point of therapy in your view?
I didn't know because I don't come from a culture that acknowledges the need for therapy,
Yeah.
and until we attended, I had really no experience with it. So I thought it was going to be somebody giving you advice. I thought instead of being
Right.
couples counseling, I thought it was going to be like
Couples
advice.
consulting. Yeah, which is not
Do this.
that is right. That's not what happens.
Right.
So in that sense, you were let down. But did it end up being a thing that you can now recognize as and articulate?
There were 2 or 3 sessions that useful things came out, and they stuck with me. And where we cleared the air about some things, misconceptions and little things that we held against each other for many years. So that was definitely useful. The therapy part, the improving improving our relationship part, actually for me is coming through men's group, because friends don't tell you what your weaknesses are.
Right.
They don't tell you this is the part of you that's kind of grating, and these are the words that you use that kind of sting, and this is how people perceive you. But the point of men's group, I use this description with the guys on the men's group, and they get offended, but it's really accurate. It's like Toastmasters, but for emotions. So people critique you on how you come across and how you should express yourself and the words you use. And I can see why I've gotten into trouble in friendships, at work, and in the marriage, by acting certain ways, saying certain things. Even when I'm not trying to hurt somebody, where I've been hurtful because people just perceived me in the wrong, or I shouldn't have been helpful. I should have put something through a filter of kindness first. So I've found that to be the prescriptive part. That has been like, these are the things that you need to do.
Hey, Kristen, what's the point of therapy for you? And specifically in this context, but generally, what is it the point, or what is therapy?
Actually, I think it's sort of very similar to the way Kourosh just described men's group. For my therapist, who I've seen for a long time, I haven't seen her in the past probably 6 months or so, but she made me see things about myself that I couldn't see without sort of her mirror.
Yeah.
And then it is kind of prescriptive, actually, like ways to go forward, but it's not like you can go to one session of therapy and they're going to like give you a checklist of things to do. And then you come back and like, did you do your homework? And like, then you proceed. It's like, it's a process of, your therapist figuring out like what are the things that are triggers for you, and what are the things that are actually really important to you that are going to cause you to possibly do something to damage your relationship, or the things that are going to help you repair your relationship. I think it's a way to become a better person, really. I mean, It sounds kind of trite, but I think that going to therapy has really helped me be more thankful for what I have and more generous, a better communicator, just a better partner, just like a better human, basically.
Yeah. Therapy is so different than consulting, which is what a lot of people. I remember in my divorce practice, people would say the same thing. Well, we wanted our therapist to fix us, and the therapists don't. But therapists do provide a place for you to discover our unconscious mechanisms that drive our experience, and to help us to remove the blocks so that we can see our own unconscious mechanisms. You said
it what I was thinking. Yeah, you said it much better than me, but that is exactly what I agree exactly with that.
And I love it's such a funny image to think of Kourosh saying, well, no, you got to tell me what to do. And her saying, well, no, that's not what therapy is. It's going to be a process. But it's actually both things, because therapy is a doing. it unfolds in its own way, which is what she was saying, and you can't expect a particular quote unquote immediate result with, application of X, Y, and Z prescriptions. But there is a doing. The doing is this process of looking at your unconscious mechanisms. And so she did that with you a little bit. And the one way that it sounds like it made a huge difference was you two got to clear the air about things you've been holding on to. And something you've said that came out of that, it sounds like passion, physical passion, like your sex lives got better afterwards. Am I making that up, or is that true? You're looking at each other coyly now.
Not really, actually. I think that I feel very, I feel very attracted to Kourosh, and I think we're like physical, but it's hard to find time for the actual stuff.
Yeah. Well, now you have two kids in the house.
Now we have two, yeah. And one of them sleeps with us every night, so it's not been easy. I think that we're close.
Yeah, we've definitely. I feel like this is the closest we've ever been, including the early days.
Well, this is amazing because in one sense it got fixed, in another sense it completely didn't get fixed.
Yeah.
So,
I don't think the goal was so that we have more frequent sex.
Okay, yeah, speak more about that.
I think the goal was that we're better partners and that we become better parents and that we live our lives as satisfyingly as possible when you have to share it with somebody. I'm doing it willingly. I need a partner. I can't do this alone. I would have gone insane if I had to face a lot of the shit that's gone in my life alone. But to get something in return, I also have to be a better partner to her. The goal isn't that all of a sudden you're back to screwing it's week one in your relationship. The goal is to be more deeply connected and understand each other and share your lives in a better way.
That seems so true for you, and I get it. And that's the thing that, if you read a book about infidelity, people ultimately realize. On the other hand, let me test around the edges, because when you were talking about the New York experience, you were basically saying, I was just horny. And I would be in New York, and I would not even kind of intend to do it, but I'm horny. And if you're still not having frequent sex, even though you're attracted to and have a lot of intimacy with the woman you love who's your partner, you're still horny. And so is she. So what's different now if she goes to Paris or you go to New York? Which you still do.
Or Greece.
Or Greece, right. Which I was actually going to raise that point because,
right.
Kristen just went to Greece by herself. I was there. I'm pretty sure she didn't have any affairs, but she could have snuck off on that little ATV.
Yeah, we use the Find My Friends app on iPhone, so we know where we're. No,
we have surveillance on each other. No. I actually think that, to kind of answer your question, I think that we have so much going on in our lives right now that is extremely important to us, that we feel really passionate about, not just our relationship, but the kids in our lives and, where their lives are going, that I think that I don't think either one of us wants to risk damaging any of that. And I actually trust Kourosh more right now than I ever have. I really don't have trust issues right now. But I do think every once in a while about going forward when we are, retiring and we're older and the kids are out of school and everything, that we're going to need to face
rekindle stuff.
Yeah. There's not going to be all that other stuff that's holding us together. And that is so, eminently important. And I often think that we should start thinking about that stuff now, so that when we get there, yeah. I think it is something that we need to. Is it
something? Well, that makes me wonder if it's something that you're not facing, that you're avoiding.
I don't know if we're avoiding it or I do think we're kind of putting it on the back burner, but it's not, I don't know. I don't want to speak for you, but for me, it doesn't seem like something that's like really bothering me right now. It's like something that, but it's something that I feel like it's kind of like, I don't know. I don't want to make a terrible analogy, but like losing that last 5 pounds or something. It's like, like, maybe next year or, I don't know. It's more important than that. But it's just like, it's not something that bothers me so much right now. And I feel like this is the same for you, but I don't want to speak for you.
I mean, for me, it's, I'm past the midpoint of my life, but I'm only now addressing my shortcomings, my weaknesses. I've really not paid attention to how can I be a better human being to first my partner and then my family. So I just feel very belatedly I'm paying attention to something that I should have been much more focused on much earlier in my life.
And say what it is.
Just being kinder, just being more thoughtful, just taking into account other people's feelings. And I've known for a long time that I can be off-putting. My personality is either we get along, we like each other, and we're jovial, and you get me, or that I immediately offend, get people to dislike me. So I've tried to,
or instill terror.
I'm trying to, address that. I'm trying to see, what parts of me are needlessly dickish and fix that.
Yeah. I kind of see the connection, and this might be too much about me, but let me say there's been an experience I've gone through recently that I have been trying to put into words, where I noticed when I was a younger man, there was a way in which I would go for women that had to do with proving something to myself and to the people in my life that I had value. There was, and it wasn't conscious, right? It was like I saw a woman who was attractive, and if I didn't try to make an effort to flirt with her or have her like me or have sex with her, there was something wrong with me. And if I did accomplish that goal, then there was something right with me. But the feeling of rightness never lasted. I always that hole never got plugged, no matter how many experiences I had. And in the last few years, several fairly dramatic things have happened in my life. And in the wake of those, I've noticed that need is gone. It's just gone. It's just not even there. I'm still very sexual, and I still am attracted to other women for sure, other than Aubrey. I'm attracted to Aubrey, and I'm attracted to other women. But I don't have that itch, that like existential drive to do something about it. Now there's alternatives, and I don't even care. And I'm wondering, and so when you're talking about how you're not having more sex now, I'm wondering if, but you're not cheating either. I don't think you are. You don't look like you're cheating to me. I guess I wouldn't be able to tell what
I know.
You never know.
What would that
I'm
look
assuming
like?
You're not cheating.
I would like to know.
He says
not even the Jimmy Carter way. No.
That's a really great obscure reference that totally dates you.
I know.
That's so good. Wait. So let's assume you're not cheating. What is it? Something similar that's shifted for you, like that? I mean, is it bigger context, or is something fundamentally changed about you? I mean,
yeah, something fundamentally has changed about me. I am trying to figure out ways of being kinder and more impactful to people on the planet. There was a point in my career where I thought that, I'm going to be wealthy and I can give money and I can sit on boards and I can be a philanthropist and I can affect the lives of thousands of people that way. But that's not how things have played out. And I'm realizing that I have to do it in a much more personal and small way. So I'm focused a lot on being kinder to people around me and trying to, make the planet slightly better by raising my kids as well as I can, and volunteering to, I don't know, clean up the beach, or some nonprofit that needs help with internet stuff or stuff like that. So I have noticed that I've shifted my priorities, and I'm realizing that my life has this certain scope, and what is it that I can do within this scope? I'm really focused on that.
Yeah. Wow. It's beautiful, and it's also such a great prescription for how not to be a tech douchebag. I mean, I think you learned the lesson. Well, okay, Kristen, same question. What's shifted for you? Why not Paris again?
Well, I did like 4 years of therapy after that experience.
Don't want to do that again.
That helped me learn how to feel good enough about myself. Like, I really think I was trying to somehow boost myself, like somehow feel good about myself, and that's kind of why I did that. But going through the therapy and now really having children, makes me realize there's stuff that's more, well, not that there's stuff that's more important, but that I can get that from within myself. I don't have to like go outside of my marriage to get that excitement that I was looking for before, or I don't know.
Validation.
Yeah. It's hard to distill all of those years actually into like one statement of like what has changed. But I don't know. I just really like my life right now, and I'm not looking outside of it for anything.
There's peace in it.
Yeah.
In our lives. I cherish that.
Yeah.
I'm
Despite the
grateful for it.
chaos of a 16-year-old and a 4-year-old, there's somehow there's also peace. That's true.
Wow. Well, guys, anything I should have asked you about but didn't?
We got to do the this or that round. Come on.
Oh yeah, you did. That's coming.
We're waiting. Yeah.
For sure. All right. Well, no?
I can't think of anything now.
Okay. In that case, I'd like to close interviews with a quick game of this or that.
Okay.
Now, I was thinking one of the best this or that games we had recently was where the guests' kids, they told us the questions their kids ask. So, has Frida gotten to the would you rather phase of life yet?
No, not
No.
yet.
Oh yeah,
She doesn't know that yet.
Quite.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Well, then I'll ask you the question that his kids asked, which was hot lava or sharks. Kourosh.
If you mean by death, hot lava.
Hot lava.
Why?
Because it would take
It
a
would
little while to
happen
get eaten by
faster.
sharks, and that'd be pretty
Yeah.
painful. I think lava would be pretty quick.
It would be fast. You sink in and you're gone.
Yeah.
Or maybe you just combust.
Yeah, you just
Yeah.
poof.
Yeah, that would be better.
Yeah.
Also, much more spectacular. Right?
That's right.
Getting dropped into a volcano
Maybe,
yeah.
would probably be how hot lava would happen.
And
Totally.
you would become a legend.
Yeah, and you would be an internet sensation, posthumous internet sensation.
5 million views on YouTube.
Yeah.
You would build a startup on it, but it would have to be your kids. You're still not going to get rich on that startup. Sorry,
Nope.
buddy. Okay. Well, here's a question that I haven't asked in a while. Would you rather have elbows on your eyes or eyes on your elbows?
What?
Yeah, right? It's a very abstract question.
I would rather have eyes on my elbows, but also still have eyes on my face. Can I have 4 eyes?
One or the other.
Oh, so then.
Well, no. Actually, I guess it's not. No, I didn't specify. I guess you could. Well, we don't know because it's a genie, and
Because then you
genies
could
are
be
fickle.
like, oh, what's going on back there? As well as looking
But
for
also,
it.
you could never rest your elbows on a
That's
table.
true. You would
again.
have to be like this all the time.
the dinosaur.
Your arms would get tight. You have to be like, you could be like, this would be cool.
Man, this is surreal. It's like one of those Mexican director movies, like Pan's Labyrinth.
Yeah, right. And
Yeah, I'd go with eyes on elbows.
eyes on elbows. Okay, all right. And Batman or Superman? Wait, you have to answer this time. Kourosh first,
Batman.
and Kristen.
Superman's a gyp. He was born that way. Batman has to work out and learn martial arts and
Oh, I'm not as versed
Learn
in
20 different
superheroes as
languages
Kourosh is, obviously. But I'm just going to say Batman because Frida's obsessed with Batman right now.
oh yeah, that's right. That's my girl.
I'm fascinated by how people answer that question. I'm not going to give it away on the air because I don't want to screw it up for people in the future, but I'll tell you guys why afterwards.
Oh.
Okay, and then the 2 questions that you probably know are coming. If you, $1 billion or enlightenment, Kristen?
Oh, yeah. So,
Come
$1 billion.
$1 billion.
Both of
How's
you.
this even a
Yeah.
question?
Totally.
Why is it even a question? Most people ask me that having answered the opposite.
Opposite. Because there is no enlightenment.
There's no
That's
enlightenment.
right.
So, give me the money.
There is no enlightenment. It's the striving to enlightenment. You can't just like.
You can't
That's not
have
the
it.
point of it. That's not the point of it. It's striving to get it. So you're never going to get it, but that's okay. That's the whole point. So you might as well give me the $1 billion.
Perfect. Okay, I got it. All right, and that segues into the last question. If you had to either live for infinity or die in the next 5 minutes, which would it be? I think you answered first last time,
Yeah.
so Kourosh.
I'm curious to hear your answer.
5 minutes.
He just says that like everybody would answer that way.
I'm the only one. I would say live forever because I can't leave Frida and Joel right now. Like I can't. I just I don't really want to live forever.
Well, I didn't know there was.
but-
Okay. Well, I didn't know that there were circumstances beyond that. Like if it was just in the abstract.
Just but when I think of dying in the next 5 minutes, I'm like, oh my God, what about Frida's gonna be so sad? So yeah.
That's
and
true.
also because I feel like I'm a late bloomer in everything. So I'm like, I need more time to figure my shit out.
Who knows what'll bloom in a million years?
Yeah, exactly.
Actually, that answer kind of encapsulates perfectly what we've been talking about. That you're a very kind-hearted person, and I've been selfish, and I just gave a very selfish answer, and I've been striving towards your answer.
Are you changing your answer then?
Yeah. Yeah, I need to take care of my kids. You're right.
Well, that's it for our interview with Kristen and Kourosh, folks. Thanks for listening. If you'd like to learn more about Kristen, you can find her extremely popular fashion and lifestyle blog at stylenik.com. That's STYLENIK.com. And if you liked what you heard on our show today, please subscribe to us on iTunes. It makes a big difference when you do that and when you leave us a review. Please also consider donating to our Patreon campaign. We're on a mission to crush shame, as you may know, and every penny really helps. You can find our campaign at patreon.com/together. That's patreon.com/together. If you have any questions or comments, or if you'd like to be on the show, please reach out via one of our platforms. You can find our website at www.together.guide. Our Facebook page is facebook.com/togethershow. Twitter and Instagram are both at together_show, or you can email me at host@together.guide. Our producer is Charlene Goto. Our web designer is Courtney Munna. Our art director and my one and only is Aubrey Pick. Thanks once again to my guests, Kristen and Kourosh. Dinner at my place next time, guys. That's all for today, folks. See you next time.